rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick, and I just realized I forgot to switch the pledge over, so give me just a second to get the pledge set up. All right. So the pontiff was laid to rest today. If you were sending if you were having your flag at half-mast, today at sunset was when you were supposed to raise it back up to full staff again. I actually did it earlier today, and the only reason is because I knew that here I would be on the program when sunset would occur, so I decided to do it a little early. Not that I mean, it's been half staff for several days, so there you go. So there we go. I mean, that is what it is, I guess. Take it or leave it. Anyway, we'll get more into that in just a moment, but first, let's go ahead and have Nana of JJS provide us leadership with the recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. Man, I just can't get that out tonight. Anyway, so if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one like me, and place your hand over your heart and follow along with Nana of JJS as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that wonderful rendition of the pledge there, Nana. We do appreciate it. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself performing the pledge in your style and take that audio file or video file, whatever kind of file, attach it to an email, send it off to me, send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. All right. And tonight's headline sponsor, really quickly, well, I mean, as quickly as I can read it anyway, is the Institute on the Constitution. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission, and that is to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following three key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.americanperspective.online, to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.americanperspective.online to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's iotc.americanperspective.online. Or if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, go to constitution.americanperspective.online. Take a look at this high quality product, 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather wrapped around pages that are water and tear resistant. Look at that binding. No cheap glue here, folks. It is stitched all the way through the leather and the pages. It has a 100-year warranty against materials and manufacturing defects, such that if something goes wrong with this, you can send it back to the manufacturer and they will either fix it or replace it for free. It is buddy tested, buddy approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved. My youngest whiskey warrior has confirmed that the information contained within this document will help you to get your civics badge in Scouts. It would probably also help you to get your civics test as well. Head on over to constitution.americanperspective.online to get yours today. And also don't forget to check out the rest of the Institute on the Constitution, on the Constitution's offering, as they are a wonderful resource for a lot of stuff. And you can go and check them out. And I appreciate them for allowing me to be a brand affiliate. All right. Guys, I have asked Mrs. Whiskey to do the pledge for us. She unfortunately has yet to do so. And she's, I'll be honest with you, she's kind of curious as to why you guys want it, but I'll pass it along again. Okay, I'll pass it along again. Anyway. All right. Well, first things first. Oh, I forgot to do this part. First things first, of course, is tonight I am drinking Knob Creek number 9 Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey right here in the bottle. I've got plenty left in this particular bottle. And it is in a glass that it was a gift from my wonderful Whiskey Warrior P1 fans. The glass says it takes stones to drink with whiskey. And of course, there's stones in the bottom because that's how I drink my whiskey. Anyway. Ah, there we go. Nice, smooth bourbon down the hatch. All right. So, really quick, speaking of the nice glass, speaking of the nice gifts, I love you. I love you, man. I love my fans. I really do. And by the way, got a treat this week. I got a treat last night in my email box. And, yeah, we'll get to that here in just a second. 3 Chevy. 3 Chevy sends me, this. For those of you that are listening on the audio portion of the program, I am an action figure now. That's right. This is the Rick Thomas action figure. It has literally the correct hat. I couldn't believe this. Plus, it has the American shirt. An American flag themed shirt that looks like a cotton polo. It is fantastic. I'm holding my leather U.S. Constitution. Okay. But I also have an actual I actually have an actual copy of the Constitution in my other hand. And I'm standing there with some Four Roses bourbon, which of course is one of my favorite bourbons that's there. But the pièce de résistance at the bottom corner, there is a glass. And in that glass, not only is there bourbon, folks, but there's also stones in the glass. And yes, I did notice that, 3 Chevy. 3 Chevy was like, make sure that you note that your glass has stones in it. Yes, it does. It has stones. And the U.S. Constitution, the leather-bound U.S. Constitution, has rounded corners to it, too. Now, I have to admit that I'm looking a little serious in this one, in this photo. So 3 Chevy, of course, resolved that by sending me this one in which I am smiling. Oh, oh my gosh. This is just, I mean, you guys are so great. I wish I actually had an action figure. This would be cool. I mean, yeah, this would just be awesome for it. But yeah, Four Roses bourbon in the glass and in the bottle surrounding me, and hey, I even have black pants on with a belt. You guys don't normally see, my other half on the show, but that's pretty close to what I would normally wear. And of course, the boots that are down at the bottom, the black boots, they look like they are pretty dang close to my Justin Roper boots that I wore down in Texas. Oh my gosh. I mean, this is, oh man, I wish I had I wish I had a way to like create an action figure. I am now an action figure. I sent it to my wife, or I showed it to my wife. She cracked up laughing. She was loving it. And I sent it to my kids. They didn't respond, but I sent it to my business partner and he said, that is just freaking awesome. So 3 Chevy, congratulations. You did a fantastic job. Although my wife looked at this one with the smile and was like, you're not really a smiling kind of person. So she likes the one with the grimace on his face. The seriousness, the serious look. The serious look on his face. Yeah. Anyway, so there it is. But it's just fantastic. Oh, you guys, I got to tell you, I love these. I love these when I get sent stuff like this. This is just fantastic. And yes, I do see almost everything. I may not respond to almost everything, but I do see almost everything that's out there. There's only been a few things that have slipped through the cracks. But anyway, so there it is. I am an action figure. I told my kids, I'm like, I'm memeable. Anyway. Oh, I just had to show everybody that, because that is just fantastic. I posted it on social media, so if you want to see the photos and you're listening to the audio portion of the program, all you need to do is check out my account on X, Facebook, Instagram, and or you can head on over to rumble.com and look at the video. One of the tops. All right, let's go ahead and get the first segment going in tonight's show, which is On This Day in American History. Before I get into the On This Day in American History, I do need to know, because I've tried doing things like that with AI, and I can never get the description to come out right. In fact, you guys called out when there was a spelling error in the background to the show, which embarrassingly I did not catch. But anyway, had it for months too, and nobody really caught it until toward the end. All right, for On This Day in American History, we read from the American Patriots Almanac, written by William J. Bennett and John T.E. Cribb, chock full with all kinds of little factoids and information about our wonderful country that we call home. Tonight, we are going to talk about Jamestown, Virginia. On April 26th, 1607. Wow, that's like a lot. Wow, 1607. Anyway, on April 26th, 1607, 3 small ships from England named the Susan Constant, Godspeed, and Discovery sailed into Chesapeake Bay in what is now Virginia. On board were 104 colonists who came ashore. They erected a wooden cross and gave thanks to God for their passage across the Atlantic. In the following days, they ventured inland along a wide river they named the James, after their king, and established themselves on a low island 60 miles from the bay's mouth. Jamestown would turn out to be the first permanent English settlement in North America, the very beginning of what would become the United States. That the colony survived comes close to being a miracle. The land the settlers chose was swampy and mosquito-infested. The drinking water was bad. Malaria, typhoid, and dysentery took their toll, as did clashes with the local Indians. Some of the colonists were ill-prepared for frontier life. At times, they spent much more energy looking for gold than trying to stay alive. During the first summer, 50 died. More ships arrived with more colonists and supplies, but it was still tough going. During the winter of 1609 to 1610, a siege by the Indians brought the, quote, starving time. One settler remembered that, quote, many times 3 or 4 died in the night. In the morning, their bodies were trailed out of their cabins like dogs to be buried. Out of the 214 colonists, only 60 survived. They decided to go back to England, but had sailed only a few miles downriver when they met a new governor arriving with yet more settlers. So they turned around. Jamestown endured partly due to the discovery of tobacco, which was a crop as good as gold, but largely because of dogged perseverance. By 1619, the colony had grown enough to elect its own House of Burgesses, the first representative legislative assembly in the Western Hemisphere. That is tonight's On This Day in American History. Just think about that. I mean, 1609. 1609. My math whiz, my second math whiz, who can punch buttons on a calculator, he claims, came 418 years ago. 1609 would be 418 years ago today. Wow. I just can't. I don't even know. I mean, seriously, 418 years ago, just think of how horrible life conditions would be compared to today's standards. A few of us might be able to survive some of what the settlers, the first settlers who came here to the New World with the promise of living free and practicing your religion in whatever shape you wish. But I don't think most of us could. Hell, half of us, especially those who are younger than myself, can barely make it without the frickin' internet. I'm serious. I'm not saying this to be mean or cruel, but I know that, like, my kids, whenever the power would go out, and of course the internet would go along with it, they get bored easily. They do not have the resourcefulness across the board to be able to basically be able to entertain themselves, it seems. Without their electronic devices in their hands. Anyway, I think most of us would have a difficult time, especially now. I know I would. I might go stir crazy just over the fact that I wouldn't be able to do this. I mean, seriously, whenever I go on vacation, you guys are like the forefront of my mind. I'm like, God dang it, I'm so out of it. I want to go live. I want to do all this stuff. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. All right. I guess we're being checked. 3 Chevys being checked by our math whiz, saying it was actually 416 years ago, not 418. But anyway. My Whiskey Warrior P1s out there, keeping it real, keeping it straight. Anyway, speaking of keeping it real and keeping it straight, we had obviously the pontiff was laid to rest today. And, of course, the stupid media could only talk about the fact that Donald Trump did not wear black. He was in a suit, folks, a blue suit, not a black one. Yeah. And that apparently is enough to get the mainstream media, by that I mean the propagandist media, to go full bore on the fact that, oh my gosh, he wore a suit. It was blue. He probably did it to stand out in the crowd. They don't know that. I mean, maybe he doesn't wear black. I mean, some people just don't like a certain color. Some people don't like certain colors and how they look in those colors. Who cares? The man showed up. I mean, oh my gosh, he came as a head of state, did what he was supposed to have, okay? Did what he was supposed to do, which is essentially pay his respects, and all they could talk about was the fact that he was not in a black suit. That's it. I mean, talk about scraping the bottom of the barrel to find something to complain about. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the local spoiled little kid. That's all they freaking want to talk about. I mean, when you hand a spoiled child, and I've seen them, believe me, some of my interactions when I had young children like this count. But when you have a spoiled child who basically is like, well, you know, you give them a sandwich, for an example, and the sandwich, they asked for a peanut butter and jelly. Okay? You hand them a peanut butter and jelly. But the jelly, all right, the jelly is maybe strawberry instead of raspberry. And they throw a fit. You didn't ask for strawberry. You didn't ask for raspberry. You just said peanut butter and jelly. What you were expecting was to get something like that. So, yeah, it was, I mean, come on, folks. Or even better yet, the bread that you get, okay? They ask for wheat bread. And the wheat bread that you get, because of the way that it was processed and made by this certain baker, looks more like white bread than wheat bread, even though it is actually wheat bread. And of course, the kid, the little child, is like, this isn't wheat bread. It's not brown enough. This is white bread. Yeah. Well, we should start treating them like the young, petulant children from which they are. We need to, because that's how you deal with these people. I mean, seriously, come on. The man showed up. He was there with Melania, which reportedly Melania looked absolutely fabulous, like always. But Donald Trump, and well, here's a photo. I mean, you tell me. Oops, wrong one. Sorry. That's later. Here's a photo of it. There he is in front of the pontiff's, casket. Passed by the coffin, the casket passed by President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump. Now she's in black. There you go. I mean, really. It's not like he's wearing a matching blue suit with a blue tie. Okay? It's not like he's wearing his typical blue suit red tie. He's just standing there. I mean, he's wearing a freaking suit. He showed up. He is there to pay his respects. Who cares if he's in black or not? He was in a suit. That's what should matter. Anyway, so this is all they have to talk about is the two of them for it. I mean, again, they're nitpicking. Well, anyway, Trump apparently, before heading to Rome, praised the pontiff and basically said that he was a good man who loved the world. I thought he was a fantastic kind of guy. That's Trump. I mean, that's just the way Trump is. And they were, paying their respects. And that's really all that should matter. It's the fact that he was there. So, anyway, well, some other delegates showed up as well, for them. And, the president, first lady was there with the U.S. delegation. They were seated next to, Ethiopia and Eswatini, formerly known as Swaziland. Due to the Vatican protocol that organizes world leaders in alphabetical order according to their name of their country in French. Okay. So anyway, the delegation that went apparently included Nancy Pelosi, who is Catholic, Tom Suozzi, Lauren Gillen, Senators Dick Durbin, and Edward Markey. Now, all of those are Democrats. Now, former President Joe Biden also attended. And, yeah, they, let's just say that the press had a problem, apparently, because Donald Trump didn't have Joe Biden ride on Air Force One. Yeah. Anyway, they have to nitpick. Oh, speaking of nitpicking and everything else with regards to this entire situation, speaking of Joe Biden, apparently Joe Biden had a bit of a problem because, of course, they had to wheel him out of everywhere. So in terms of all that, Biden apparently was caught. Now, let me ask you this, okay? Donald Trump wears an off-colored suit, okay, but is respectful. He's wearing a USA pin on his lapel. Again, doesn't matter. One of those things where it really doesn't make a difference. But then you have Joe Biden. Now, Joe Biden is reportedly was going around and taking selfies with people. Now, which do you think is a greater faux pas? Not wearing a black suit, but being respectful, or going around and taking selfies with other dignitaries at what is supposed to be a very solemn occasion? Which one do you think is the bigger faux pas? I know what I would think. I would think that who cares what the guy's wearing? He's wearing a suit. Great. But he's going around taking selfies? Seriously? Like you're a freaking rock star or something? I mean, he was apparently caught doing this. Also, too, Biden apparently was having some trouble with the steps. Now, here's a short little clip of Joe Biden coming up, and there's I'm going to call him an elderly priest right there, going to kind of lead Joe to his seat, and Joe grabs onto him. Because obviously going downstairs is a little difficult for old Joe at the time, and he needs some help navigating the steps. Here's a couple more photos as he's walking down. He's like using the elderly priest to help hold him up. Yeah. So anyway, he also reportedly was sitting several rows behind Trump in the area for foreign dignitaries. Now, Joe Biden did have Secret Service near him, but apparently the guy that was watching, and by the way, this is an article in Red State by Nick Arama. Nick Arama. And anyway, so Nick is saying that he was watching this on TV, I guess, and he didn't see anybody who looked like Secret Service being right next to Trump and his wife. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. If they were at the Vatican is one of those places that is probably one of the most protected places on the planet. And it's akin to something like the White House, let's just say. So the chances of, Joe Donald Trump needing any Secret Service right next to him is probably fairly low in terms of that kind of a position, because, again, the Vatican is protected by men with guns, men with automatic machine guns and all kinds of stuff, let me tell you, because outside of a political situation, the pontiff is one of the upper level echelon folks that are being attacked or have gone and gotten attacked. Okay. So anyway, Biden apparently was sitting several rows behind Trump in the area for foreign dignitaries. Now, there was a fascinating exchange, apparently, and I think it's this one here, that Biden apparently had with somebody that looked like and appeared to be a foreign leader. Now, what the hell do you think he could have been talking about here? If you look at him closely, it's kind of hard to see, but Joe is he's standing there looking at the guy, and he's pointing at him now. He's pointing at him, and he appears to be scolding the man. Okay? He appears to be scolding the man. Now, what kind of power does this guy really need? And this other foreign dignitary's like, hey, I'm trying to, I'm gonna leave, thank you, whatever. And he takes off. Well, now nobody is really paying attention to old Joe. Joe's gonna sit down now. But why was he sitting there with a finger in the guy's face? Why was he sitting there in the guy's face? That's the question. Now, yeah. So anyway, you can hear in the background, I talked over it just because of the fact that there really wasn't anything going on, but, yeah, it's, he's sitting there. Oh, and take a look here. Oh, here we go. Yeah, okay, I've got this blown up. There's the selfies. There's a couple selfies. Yeah, let's get a picture together. Let's get a picture together. Let's do that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm here at a solemn occasion, and I want a selfie with Joe Biden. Yeah. No. There's an appropriate time and place for that kind of thing. You'll notice they're actually in the where the funeral is supposed to, the funeral ceremony is supposed to take place. He's sitting, you can see in the photos, you can see the pictures that I'm showing on the screen here for those who are in the audio portion of the program. You really got to go check this out. But he's standing in front of it. You've got these red velvet chairs that are sitting there. What the hell? Why are you sitting there taking photos? There's a time and a place for all of this. So apparently the Daily Mail had a body language expert, name of Judy James, take a look and basically interpret the body language of the former president. A body language expert said that Biden's appearance at the funeral was telling, as it portrayed a near obsessive desire to watch Trump in the role that he still clearly believes should be his. James also pointed out that Biden's most recent speech showed no abatement of resentment and animosity and disbelief that Trump actually has his job. Biden is going to have some four tough years, the writer here says. But, yeah. And, of course, you know, Trump couldn't give a damn that Biden was even there. Because he didn't even notice. Now, but Trump did take time out before the funeral to meet with President Zelensky. And he also talked about, Russia needing to make a deal, which he announced, by the way. Trump did. He basically said that, I think they're close to making a deal. Yeah, we'll see. No offense, but I mean, Russia really is not like putting out the red carpet treatment to get a deal done. Putin seems to be just fine with the fact that the war is still ongoing. Well, of course, again, the media being sobbing about the trip, there's suggestions by a person by the name of Duke in this red state. He basically, the way that they are sobbing about this entire thing. And of course, you would think that, you know, if Trump had done something, I don't know, like punched out another dignitary, or, you know, maybe exposed himself and peed on the casket, that would be, you know, mainstream news. But all he did was he showed up in a suit at the funeral, a blue suit. So, yeah. People, of course, were saying that the U.S. president stuck out like a sore thumb due to his clothing. Every other mourner appeared to be sporting black in line with Catholic customs, as it is seen as a sign of respect, but Trump, of course, opted to wear the blue suit. His color palette had managed to attract attention for all the wrong reasons. As a host of people tuning in to live coverage of Pope Francis's funeral have since taken to social media to accuse him of having no class. Yeah. I don't think that really is the thing that you guys need to be paying attention to, but that's what they're doing. I mean, yeah. And again, like I pointed out, they were talking about the entire fact that Donald Trump didn't bring Joe Biden on the plane. Now, I'm just going to point something out to you about that, okay? Just going to point something out to you about that. You want to complain about Joe Biden not being allowed on the plane, except there's only one problem. That plane is, in and of itself, a classified skiff, okay? That is a specially compartmentalized facility. If you recall, Joe Biden no longer has his security clearance. It was pulled by Donald Trump. He no longer gets security briefings. That was pulled by Donald Trump. So why should Joe Biden be brought onto a secured plane? Now, do you honestly believe that, I mean, here, let's just go through this scenario. They bring Joe Biden onto Air Force One. They allow him to basically thumb a ride and hitch a ride on Air Force One. But the only unsecured location, okay, that they could put the former president would be back in the back with the press corps. Now, do you honestly believe that he, meaning Joe Biden, more importantly, that Jill Biden, is going to be riding in the back of the plane with the press corps Do you honestly believe that? I mean, again, all that does is that just shows this huge glaring, okay, this huge glaring problem with Joe Biden no longer having his security clearance anymore. Again, folks, I mean, whether it was Trump's intent to do that or not, I think there are other reasons other than the fact that he basically is excommunicado from any kind of special treatment because of the fact that, again, his security clearance has been revoked. I just don't see how they could allow him on the plane, give him the dignified space that people think he deserves when he is no longer able to reside in classified spaces. I just don't see it. And so Donald Trump more than likely wasn't the one that made that decision. That was probably one of his staffers. Although I'm sure Donald just basically was like, yeah, well, you know, that just makes sense. So, I mean, they compared, some people did, they compared to the fact that sitting President George W. Bush at the time with former presidents George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton went on Air Force One all together to the funeral of Pope John Paul II, the third. Is it the second or the third? The second. I thought I saw an extra I in there. But anyway, Pope John Paul II in 2005. There was a big difference between those three presidents and the current president and former president. The former president doesn't have a classified designation anymore. Yeah. So, there you go. Trump told reporters, apparently on Air Force One on Friday, according to the Daily Mail, that he didn't know that Biden was heading to the funeral. Yeah. And then Trump followed that up with a meeting with Biden during the trip to Italy was not high on his list. So, yeah. So, again, Trump didn't even know that he was going, according to his own comment. But yet the headline of the articles are saying that Trump refused to give Joe a ride. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. Let's also not forget the fact that maybe they would have a hard time getting Joe into the plane because Joe does have problems with stairs, especially those on Air Force One. Yeah. Anyway. Just, yeah. The mainstream media are just digging for a reason to like pick on Trump. It's just what they do, apparently. Oh, Bonnie. I saw this in an article. Bonnie points out, let's go, Brandon. I saw this in an article and I didn't mention it, or I wasn't going to mention it, but apparently there was a veteran, a wounded veteran, who had his prosthetic printed with "Let's Go Brandon," and reportedly, according to the article, Donald Trump signed it. Signed his "Let's Go," his "Let's Go Brandon" prosthetic. Anyway, that was opportunistic for that. All right, before we move on to the next, let me go ahead and get this in place. Let's talk about 1775 coffee. So 1775 coffee, weak coffee is for the weak, and at Rumble, weak has never been a part of the mission. No fillers, no fraud, and no settling for mediocrity, just like 1775 coffee. It's single origin, small farm, hand-picked, specialty grade coffee that stands for quality, free speech, and calling out BS when it matters. Forget stale, mass-produced beans roasted just enough to hide the flaws. Dark roast that hits like a Trump tariff. Medium roast keeps it bold without the bitterness. And the Vitality Mushroom Blend, well, that gives you real energy and lasting focus with no synthetic garbage. For K-Cup pods, whole beans, or fresh ground coffee, go to 1775coffee.com. That's 1775. Yes, those are the numbers. 1775coffee, all one word, .com. Use promo code STUDIO, STUDIO, for 15% off your order. Go to 1775coffee.com. Use promo code STUDIO for 15% off your order of K-Cup pods, whole beans, or fresh ground coffee. And start your morning with coffee that actually stands for something. Oh, and by the way, every dollar that you spend will enter you for a chance to win a Cybertruck and $30,000 in cash. So head on over to 1775coffee.com, use promo code STUDIO, and get 15% off your order and get your entry in there for that Cybertruck and that $30,000 in cash. 1775coffee.com. All right. So, apparently we have, now I did not know this. I figured that this woman was gone. I figured this woman was not part of anything in this administration. And I was surprised to find out by this article in Red State by Dan Zerning that Susan Rice apparently was still in the administration. That's right, Susan Rice. You know, she was the she was an Obama person. She was instrumental in the whole Obama-Biden cabal. Okay. She's been a long-time government employee. Well, apparently she was, up until the point that she got fired by Pete Hegseth the other day, she was a member of the Pentagon's Defense Policy Board Advisory Committee for the last 2 years. And she got canned by Pete Hegseth along with a number of other ones. Okay. Along with a number of others, because the DOD director decided that their services were no longer needed. Yeah. Now, Rice wasted no time jumping on not only social media, but also MSNBC to whine about it and to stomp her feet about it. She called Hegseth dumb as a rock. And she actually, that is mild compared to the rest of it, because she pointed out, she's like, well, if you're a white, male, Christian, cisgender, macho, MAGA man, you can be as dumb as a rock and be deemed qualified to serve as Secretary of Defense. That's apparently what we've learned from this episode. Really? I think I would want considering everything that's been going on the last 4 years, I would want a white, male, Christian, cisgender, macho, MAGA man in that office. Because let's face it, folks, our military is designed to do one thing and one thing only. That is to kill quickly, efficiently, to destroy the enemy without prejudice, and to just go to the battles that we tell them to go to and eliminate targets. What the hell do you think a military is for? It's not to go and, hold hands and sing Kumbaya or anything like that. The military exists for one reason and one reason only, and that is to destroy, to kill, to eliminate permanently, and to do it quickly and efficiently and as safely for our members as possible. That's what they're for. Now, apparently, Susan Rice had no problems demonstrating that she has racism, sexism, anti-Christian bias all the entire time while she's throwing a tantrum. I mean, Come on. I don't like getting fired, so I'm going to take my ball and I'm going home. Really? That's what you're going to resolve yourself to be? Yeah. Okay, so let's take a look at a comparison, by the way. All right. Let's take a look at comparison. In 2018, then Secretary of State Rex Tillerson got fired for what was called poor performance, etc. Yet he managed to depart his position with a little bit of grace and style. Whether you like Rex Tillerson or not, here's what he posted and said. To the 300 plus million Americans, thank you for your devotion to a free and open society, to acts of kindness toward one another, to honesty, and the quiet, hard work that you do every day to support this government with your tax dollars. I'll now return to private life as a private citizen, as a proud American, and proud of the opportunity I've had to have served my country. Now, that's a classy way to go. Contrast that, of course, to Rice's X post, which is, quote, Hegseth is a fathead, he's a racist, he's a woman hater, he's a gack Christian of the worst kind. Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is just demonstrative of the hate that runs in the Democrat Party. This is very demonstrative of the party of tolerance. Love is anything but. Okay? Is anything but. Yeah. It's not unexpected, of course, but it is disappointing because, I mean, let's face it. She's been in the government for 10 years or whatever it is. She was one of the high-ranking officials during the Obama administration. And just like Jasmine Crockett, they dump down to the lowest of the low. Folks, we have got to get better. We, the people, have got to get better in choosing our representatives. You know, you sit here and you complain about the fact that Donald Trump wore a blue suit to a funeral. Oh my gosh. And yet you're allowing these people who essentially have literally zero evidence of any of this go on to social media and disparage a man who is just doing his job. Quite well, actually, but just doing his job. And you're sitting here and you're complaining about this guy. You're calling him names. You're saying he's a racist. He's a woman hater. How is he a woman hater? He doesn't hate women. There's not one piece of evidence that demonstrates that he hates women. It's the same thing with Donald Trump. There's not one piece of evidence that demonstrates that he hates women or that he hates blacks. There's not a single piece of evidence. And you attack his religion as well? I mean, let's face it. We all know that under today's day and age, being white, male, and straight, and Christian is the most oppressed category that we have in these United States. Okay? Yeah. At least in terms of today. Now, I mean, you can make an argument that the Jewish people are worse, are under more oppression than anything else, but whatever. Anyway, yeah. Now, the piece here in Red State basically talks about the fact that she not only is she the one that got ousted, but there were several other former advisors, which haven't been released, by the way, by the DOD yet. But I'm willing, and the writer is willing, and I agree with them, is willing to go out on a limb and assume that they weren't all women and that they weren't all white either. Chances are, and this is really the truth of it, okay? Chances are they got canned because the director wanted to fill the seats with people who think as he does. Peace through strength. Maybe he wanted to fill those positions with people who were going to help advance Donald Trump's agenda rather than attempt to try and hold it back. Now, because they did it with a group, I don't have the belief that Susan Rice was the only one that was targeted. However, that would have looked sort of interesting. For an example, the writer notes, it would have been interesting to see what Susan Rice's tantrum would have looked like if she was the only one fired and got replaced by someone the likes of, Condoleezza Rice, as an example. Or potentially, in a coup de grace, replaced her with Maxine Waters instead. These people. And how short memories that they have. Barack Obama went through and actually fired just about everybody. And they're sitting here and complaining about all of the cuts that Donald Trump is making. Yeah. By the way, that's typical. When you have a new leader come in, that's the first thing they're going to do. How stupid would it be for a new leader? And this is part of the reason why I sort of looked at Donald Trump's first term as a little bit of a misstep by him, but to go through and just get rid of everybody. Anybody who is in senior management or middle management, whenever you take over any kind of company, corporation, whatever, the first thing you do is you get rid of everybody at the top. The only ones that might survive would be the ones that are in middle and low management, because realistically, those are the folks that actually get things moving on the floor. Those are the folks that are actually doing the day-to-day operations. The mid-level and up managers have been pulled out of those day-to-days, and they're the ones that are typically focused on things like long-term plans for the company, or long-term, grandiose 30,000-foot view ideas of what it is in terms of the company. And so you get rid of all of them in order to be able to replace them with people who not only share your vision, but can also go and implement that vision across the board. Now, that doesn't mean that the lower level managers and the first line supervisors or whatever, that they don't get fired. But generally speaking, you leave those people in place for a short period of time until they present themselves to be whether they're a good egg or a bad egg. In which case, you get rid of them if they're a bad egg. But here's the thing, and this is the part that I really, really don't seem to understand. How in the hell was Susan Rice in this position anyway? Why did it take almost 100 days being in office to get rid of her off of this board? You would think that someone who is literally in the back pocket of the Obama-Biden administration, and she obviously is a holdover from Biden, because otherwise she wouldn't have been there. But how is it that she wasn't fired on day one? Why did it take 100 days to get her there? Anyway, I'm just, and again, just going back to the facts of the matter of the case, which is essentially whenever you see a regime change, such as what we just went through with this entire election season, you typically are going to be like, you know what, I'd love to keep my job, but, I don't agree with what you're doing. And so therefore, you firing me, hey, best of luck to you. I'll see you. Good job. You don't go with any animus. You don't go to social media and start calling people names. You accept the fact that, hey, my vision and their vision are not the same. And I got canned for it. You accept it as a fact of life. You accept it as a byproduct of what it is that you are attempting to do. That's how you handle it. But no, Democrats, and believe me, this isn't the only one. We've seen it happen all the time. We've seen it happen with every single, I'm going to say just about every single Democrat, leftist, lunatic moron that has left this administration. They have all done it the exact same way. They've all complained and called names and everything else. So, there you go. All right. Well, speaking again a little bit further in terms of, these CNN panels. Oh my gosh. Now, this isn't I wish this was a Scott Jennings one because this would be cool, but this isn't. This is somebody else. But these people seem to want to, and they continue again, what like you see in spoiled children, okay? Like you see in spoiled children, whenever they don't get their way, what's the first thing that they do? They side with whoever they believe was their best partner. And they're, regardless of whether this is something that they, that they think they're going to accomplish. They don't even care about the accomplishment. They just want to be on the winning side or whatever. But in this particular case, author and journalist Batya Unger Sargon confronted some CNN panelists this past Thursday, criticizing them, of course, which this is true, for not being for America. And apparently trusting China over Donald Trump. Just take a listen to these people. I'm telling you, these people, they're just spoiled little kids. Take a listen.
But they kept Trump's first term China tariffs in place. But speaking of China, Donald Trump keeps saying that he is negotiating with China. He said it again when he was asked by a reporter today.
Can you clarify with whom the U.S. is speaking with China? They're saying it's fake news that trade talks are happening.
Well, they had a meeting this morning, so I can't tell you. It doesn't matter who they is. We may reveal it later, but they had meetings this morning, and we've been meeting with China. And so I think you have, Jeff, as usual, I think you have your reporting wrong.
As usual. Well, the reporting was right. I mean, you can disagree with what the reporting was right, that China said that.
Yeah, China said
that. That part we know.
Trade negotiations.
And by the way, Dan, people in China did have a meeting today. That is completely factual.
Look, we don't know if China's lying or not, but I'm just saying that there is no doubt that there is a different story coming out of China.
They said that they are not talking to the Trump administration.
All of a sudden, we're going to rely on everything that China says to a news
opposed to
outlet.
relying on what Trump says?
Listen,
why are you guys on China's side in this? It's insane.
How do you not trust China but trust Donald Trump? This planet Earth we're talking about. Yes, very much.
I think that's really sad that you trust our greatest adversary more than the president of the United States, who was elected by over 80 million of your fellow Americans.
The majority of people who showed up to vote voted against him in 2016, 2020, and 2024. There's no mandate to speak of. I don't trust China, but there is no reason.
You dispute that he won the election?
No, I tell you that the majority of folks who showed up to vote in all three elections voted against him. He never.
Okay, hold up. No, that is false. That is totally false. Okay, 2016, obviously, I'm not going to go back. 2020 was questionable in terms of the best, in terms of the amount of votes and everything else. They didn't even allow us to set up or evaluate that. But for 2024, exactly, okay, the 2024, Trump got he won the popular vote. I'm sorry. Dude, you are completely off base with that. He won the popular vote. He won the Electoral College. He won all 7 swing states. Anyway, all right. This guy apparently, I believe, is John Fugelsang, who is a Sirius XM host. God, I could probably do a better job than him. But anyway, apparently he's on a show called Tell Me Everything, is who this guy is. Well, let me go ahead and finish the video.
Never cracked 50%.
Cumulatively.
He never cracked 50%. Yes, he has no mandate.
You can say that about a lot of presidents.
To give preference to China over the president.
It is not.
Say that about Bill Clinton.
Why should I believe that Donald Trump is telling the truth about anything at this point? How can our allies believe it? Who's going to enter into a deal with us after pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal, pulling out of Paris Accord?
30 countries are waiting to do
we can't even get tourists to come anymore. People are deciding, you know what? This year I'll try North Korea. Tourists aren't coming here anymore. Nobody wants to be in business with us because of this. But it's not popular, and he's not an honest man.
Here's the thing. Here's what I will say about this. I don't think we know. I don't think we know if Trump is telling the truth. I don't think we know if China's telling the truth. All I know, based on what both sides are saying, is that there really are not there's not substantive progress being made on that part of the trade situation, which is, frankly, the whole ball game. The entire ball game is the 150% tariffs, essentially, that will wreck a lot of economies, small economies.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go and do some fact checking. Let's take a look. So what these people, again, this is CNN, these morons are basically saying is that, yeah, there's no progress. There's nothing. There's no progress going on. Well, yeah, sure. There's no progress. Really? You sure about that? Here, this in red state. Winning. China blinks and backs down on some tariffs with even more to come. Now, keep in mind, this is according to multiple reports, folks. Yeah. According to multiple reports, China is quietly scaling back and suspending some of the tariffs against the U.S. and is considering even more exemptions on tariffs to the U.S. This is according to, the Washington Post, a left-wing article. They also have some sources that are talking to Bloomberg, another leftist outlet, that are saying that the Chinese officials are weighing further exemptions on medical equipment and some industrial chemicals like ethane. I don't know where this guy got his information, but he sure as hell didn't get it from any place that was factual. And that I'm just I'm just pointing this out. So, and by the way, too, taxes on at least 8 classifications of U.S. microchips have been lowered to 0, which is a huge drop from China's 125 retaliatory tariff on all other U.S. goods. This is according to Caijing, CAIJING, which is a Chinese financial magazine that they reported on Friday. They reported this yesterday, folks. But yet, yeah, we're not talking to China. Now, that article was supposedly later deleted, but 2 importers, like I was saying, according to the Washington Post, did confirm that certain semiconductors have been spared the hefty duties. Yeah. Okay. Apparently, they're also, according to some reports, exempting things like plane leases. Yeah. Yet, Donald Trump is lying. Really? These are external sources, my dude. Anyway. So, this article in Red State also points out that China is hugely dependent on us. Now, I can't find the article now, but there was an article that I was considering putting in last night's show that basically talked about how containers full of product that are supposed to be shipped to the United States are stacking up on China's docks. That doesn't sound like it's a positive improvement for China. Now, granted, it might be a, not so positive improvement for the United States either, but at least based on these kinds of reports, all right, we're starting to see some cracks in the foundation that are presenting themselves. So, yeah. Now, also, too, Trump pointed out, this in Breitbart, says that Xi Jinping called him directly to negotiate a trade deal. So, outside of Donald Trump saying so, who do you think is really going to be telling you? Do you think Xi Jinping is going to stand up in front of everybody and say, yes, we've capitulated. We're going to back off of our stuff. Seriously? He's trying to take over Taiwan. Do you really think he's going to project weakness in the public eye? Yeah, I don't think so. This is all part of negotiations here, people. One side puts out what they want or what they think and what they say is going on. And in the absence of any kind of contrary, information, you kind of just have to go with what's available. Now, what's available seems to be true and correct. Trump told Time magazine, oh yeah, another leftist outlet that is not favorable to Donald Trump, in an interview published on Friday, that dictator Xi Jinping called him to discuss trade negotiations. This was a day after the Chinese Foreign Ministry claimed that any reports of such negotiations were fake news. Okay, so let's think about this. The Chinese, not too long ago, my memory goes back a little bit longer than most Democrat leftists. I seem to recall China saying, oh, no. The Wuhan flu, I called it that, the COVID-19 virus did not come from our, lab that we had in Wuhan. Yeah. That had all kinds of information put out right prior to this, talking about, no. This was a breakout pandemic because of the fact that, some bat was in a wet market. Yeah. Nope. Sorry. I am not going to take necessarily on its face the word of a known to be lying dictator over my own country's elected president. I wouldn't even do that over Joe Biden. And believe me, that kind of says a lot. I think Joe Biden would be ever so slightly, more trustworthy than China. And that's saying a lot. But anyway, so, yeah. This is ridiculous. You're sitting here and you're taking the word of a known dictatorial regime that lies about just about everything. Yeah. So, all right, whatever. Anyway, well, obviously, the leftist mainstream media is starting to get really chapped. And by that, I mean they're starting to realize that their hold over the propagandist machine is starting to slip through their fingers. Mainly just because of the fact that the White House has clearly stated that they are allowing what is been colloquially called MAGA media inside the White House. So the New York Times recently published, which was essentially nothing but a hissy fit about the White House allowing reporters into the briefing room who didn't vote for the other person, Kamala Harris. Here was one of the sentences in it. Longtime White House reporters say that the result has been an erosion of their independence. Really? An erosion of your independence when you're the propagandist arm, especially the New York Times, the propagandist arm for the DNC. Yeah. The presence of a reporter that doesn't necessarily align with your values doesn't mean that your independence is eroding. What it means is your ability to snow the American people is eroding. Now, Politico's Ian Ward also profiled the quote-unquote invaders under the headline of Meet the 8 MAGA outlets disrupting the White House briefing room. Yeah, disrupting the White House briefing room. You mean by maybe putting the president into a positive light? When all you guys have is to be able to tell the American public that this guy is a, unhinged Hitlerite? Yeah, I don't think so. So, yeah. Anyway, you also have CNN's Donnie O'Sullivan, who loves to wade into MAGA crowds trying to find the dumbest sounding Trump supporter that he can find. In this case, he went looking for the dumbest sounding White House reporter. The headline that he put on the video was, "Do you consider yourself a journalist? CNN meets MAGA media at the White House." I'm going to tell you, I don't want to be called a journalist. Nobody should be calling me a journalist anyway. I'm an opinion host. That's it. But they are so upset over the loss of their control over the media that they are even starting to call out several shows that are normally not right-wing and calling them out and saying, "Oh, no, these people, they're left-wing. They're right-wing," when they're actually not right-wing, when they're more left-wing, left-leaning. Here, let me show you. So here's a chart that Media Matters put together. And Media Matters, now I want you to take note. They colored the dots and they changed the sizes of the dots based on their listenership, okay? And this is clearly just online shows. This isn't mainstream media shows. These are online shows that are out here. I see things like, the Young Turks at 12 million, The Breakfast Club at 11.4 million, Trevor Noah at 21.2 million. But take a look at the supposed red dots that are here. Joe Rogan, 39.9 million. Now, Joe Rogan is not what I would consider to be a right-leaning individual. He is more left-leaning in a lot of his stuff. Russell Brand, 22.5. Now, granted, Russell Brand has broken out and has joined more of a right-leaning organization, but that's not where he came from. He has been left-leaning for all of that, for most of his stuff. Now, they do call out some people, like our own Dan Bongino, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro, Charlie Kirk, Steven Crowder, Theo Vaughn, who have all been, added, let's say, to this list, those are who I would consider to be the right-leaning individuals. But if you look at this chart, the vast majority that they have here listed in terms of the right-leaning folks, which the right-leaning are overtaking the blue in this chart. And this is the view by Media Matters, which Media Matters, by the way, is a left-leaning organization. The question is Benny Johnson on there? Yes, Benny Johnson is, I believe. I saw him in there. Graham is not that I can see. But anyway, and I know I'm not because I don't even come close to any of these people. But these are like the top, what they call the left-leaning and right-leaning shows. This is just an example. They are freaking out. The left is freaking out about all of this because of the fact that they no longer control the narrative. And they are essentially acting like spoiled little brats and calling people that would normally be on their side in a vast majority of situations, like Joe Rogan, and they're calling them right wing, which is completely farcical at best. I mean, just because you speak reality and truth, all right, because you've taken the red pill, let's say, and woken up to the facts that have been going on with all of this, this kind of scenario, this reminds me a lot of that, of those children, again, those spoiled brats who sit there and say, well, you know what, if I can't play the game with the rules in my favor, then I'm just not going to play. So in other words, you have to have the vast majority of the mainstream media. You have to have the vast majority of all of the outlets that are out there. You have to have the vast majority of the information chain so that you can put out exactly what you want. Okay. But it's like, now you're throwing a temper tantrum because you've been called to the carpet. People are starting to realize that they've had the wool pulled over their eyes for so long. So, yeah. I just don't see where you guys, meaning the Democrats and the leftists, are going to gain anything by sitting here and bitching and moaning and complaining about this. Start being truthful. Start by give up your freaking dreams of, people being cats or whatever, and start dealing with reality. And you'll probably gain back at least a portion of that share that you claim that you've lost. Anyway. All right. So yesterday we talked about, and I think it was yesterday. Yeah, it might have been the day before. I can't remember. Sometimes these days kind of crash together. But within the last couple of days, we did talk about SCOTUS hearing a case with regards to parental rights being, their religious rights being subjected to what they would consider to be a non-religious conversation. And rather than just the school district at the time going ahead and just allowing them to opt out, the school district said, yeah, you can't opt out of this. Sounds like a bit of a totalitarian move, and definitely an indoctrination move, if you ask me. Because, I mean, let's be honest, does the school district give equal time to religious conversations? Like, for an example, would the school district be willing that, hey, we want you to have your kids come and listen to this LGBTQ plus minus divided by sign, ampersand, whatever, book, and be read this book, but can you have the story of, David and Goliath? Or the story of Adam and Eve? I mean, it's a story, right? It's a good kid's story to discuss how life became. But, of course, they're not going to do that. Well, on the heels of this Supreme Court case, we now have another case that has been filed. Apparently, there is a Christian girl in the same school district whose graduation is now in jeopardy because of the fact that she has a religious objection to that same LGBTQ plus minus divided by sign ampersand curriculum that the school district says that she can't opt out from. The district has refused. So a Christian family now has filed a separate lawsuit with the Maryland School District that isn't allowing their star student daughter, okay, to graduate over religious objections to a health class that has an LGBTQ plus curriculum. The student, whose identity is being protected right now, has a 4.76 weighted GPA and has received a 1450 score on her SATs. For those of you who may not know, I believe the SATs have like 1600 is your max points that you can get. And she is in the 96th percentile on the SATs, according to school records. Now, here's the thing. They're not, the people that are bringing the suit, they're not attempting to change the curriculum. They're not attempting to tell the school district to stop teaching this class. Okay? They're not trying to get any of that. All they're trying to do, the only thing they're trying to do is basically say, hey, my daughter in this case, okay, is trying to graduate, does not want to, and has religious objections to this particular class and would like to opt out of this class. Apparently, Montgomery County Public Schools is not allowing her to graduate because she refuses to complete this mandatory health class that has LGBTQ plus affirming and religiously discriminatory content within it. Okay? According to the family. Now, the district is defending its refusal for the religious opt-out, and this is in that Supreme Court case right now that was filed by, oh, wait a minute, take a look at this. It was filed by Jewish, Christian, and Muslim parents of students in SCOTUS. The student's father said to Fox that she's pretty distraught about not being able to graduate with all of her friends and experience that rite of passage. Yeah. The family has filed petition in the Maryland Supreme Court to allow the daughter to graduate on the regular schedule. Folks, this is ridiculous. I mean, this is utterly ridiculous. This is how far America has fallen. And no, 3 Chevy, my 2 bottles of 4 Roses is not getting to me. Although that is pretty clever. I've always pronounced curriculum that way. Curriculum. 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 There you go. Anyway, sorry, my rumblers were making comments about how I pronounce curriculum. Anyway. Yeah. So basically what the family is doing is offering to have their daughter take an alternative class to fulfill the health class requirement. The district has refused. And basically they're pretty much just saying, hey, we want to go. I mean, we want our child to go to a qualifying class, but we should be able to opt out on religious beliefs, because again, the First Amendment not only states that government can't mandate religion, but government can also not stop the practice of the practice of their religion either. You can't have it both ways, folks. All right. My goodness. Anyway, yeah, U.S. Abbey girl. Well, it's Maryland. They support an illegal gang member way more than American citizens in any form or fashion. That is so true. That is so true. All right, folks, that is it for me for this evening. If you haven't already, please head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, please make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time I go live. Also, too, don't forget to hit those thumbs up and like buttons across all of my platforms, whether it is YouTube, X, Facebook, and, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. Even if you don't like the program, give me a thumbs down. At least I know somebody was listening. I know all of my regular Whiskey Warriors do. But anyway, we will see you on Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your weekend. And I'm going to be chuckling about that action figure for quite some time. Have a great rest of your evening, everybody. Good night, everyone.